Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us for today's Careers Inspiration. This series is designed to help you get to grips with a few different careers and jobs and what they involve by speaking to people who do all sorts of jobs within the IT industry. Today, we're joined by Grace and Kira. Grace is a junior management consultant and Kira is due to start an apprenticeship in September, and both at IBM. So we're going to speak to them for around 10 to 15 minutes, and then at the end there'll be some time for you to ask some questions for them as well. At any point that a question comes to your mind, feel free to use the chat bar on the right hand side to type it in, and we'll get through as many as we can at the end. So thanks very much to Grace and Kira for joining us today. And the first question really I'd like to ask is just to find out a bit from you, Grace, about what you do in your job at IBM.
Yeah, sure. So hello, my name is Grace Blake and I am an IBM management consultant. I specialise within artificial intelligence and financial services, which I guess more day to day is I work with different UK banks, looking at what cognitive solutions we can provide them to help their business, help them drive efficiency, reduce costs, and help them build a workforce for the future. In addition to that, I was also an IBM apprentice, like Kira is going to be. So I joined the apprenticeship scheme about 3 years ago now at IBM and completed that last year. So I've sort of done a different career path into the job I'm doing now.
Thanks very much, Grace. And it'd be really interesting to hear about a project that you are currently working on. What are you up to at the moment?
Yeah, so currently I'm working with one of the UK's largest high street banks. My role is a cognitive SME, which means that my role is kind of split across a number of different things I do. So I spend probably about 50% of my time working in a development type role, looking enhancing the product that we've produced for the bank. So we built a series of different virtual assistants, which are like chatbots. And what we're doing is looking at how we can enhance them and make them better for the workforce. In addition to that, I also spend some of my time actually upskilling their staff so they're able to take on some of the responsibilities which I'm currently doing for them, and also spend some of my time researching into, I guess, new approaches that we can use using IBM's Watson to produce new products for them.
That's great, thank you. And how did you get into technology? Is technology something you've always been interested in working with, or you know, did you do for GCSE, or how did you come to the role that you're in today?
So I guess I've had quite an odd career path in one sense. So when I was younger, I was really set I was going to be a veterinarian. I studied all the GCSEs to do that, but kind of what I wanted to do. And I guess through a variety of different things I did at school. So I was involved with Teen Tech, which I'm not sure whether anyone on the call other than Kira will know about. But I was involved with Teen Tech, and I did a few different pieces of work with my school, sort of looking into technology and different things they could do. And I guess I felt a bit more inspired down the technology route. So I studied computer science and business studies A-level, along with French and finance. And then I decided that university wasn't really for me either. I looked at the different options there were, and I didn't really think it was the right decision. I didn't really feel that inspired to go there or study any of the subjects that the universities offered. So I looked into apprenticeships, and I guess that's kind of how I've ended up where I am now. Yeah.
Thank you. That's really interesting. And Kira, I'd like to just come to you now, and I guess find out a little bit about how you came to choose the apprenticeship route, and also a similar kind of thing with you really about was technology something you kind of knew you wanted to go into, or how did you come to choose that kind of pathway?
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to go into kind of technology from the time we started secondary school, because we did a computer science class and I enjoyed all the coding we did. And then similar to Grace, I did Teen Tech. We did lots of trips and stuff to big companies and little companies to see how they work. Originally, I planned for uni, but then when I looked into it, I decided I didn't really want to be studying full time for 3 years. I wanted to like get stuck in and get on with it. So that's when I found out about degree apprenticeships, when a company came in to do an assembly on it. So I decided that was what I wanted. So I looked into loads of apprenticeships and I found IBM, and my teachers, because Grace and some others have been there before, they suggested it. So yeah, it was the right choice. I think there was no debt involved, which was a nice thing. You don't have to worry about paying all that, and you get a salary, and you get all the experience that an undergrad may not have once they come through. So I decided that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much. And another question for you, Grace, is just about your sort of day-to-day work. What do you get excited for about going to work? What kind of things get you out of bed in the morning and excited for, you know, another week of work? What do you look forward to? What do you enjoy the most?
So I guess within my role as a consultant, every day is very different. I'm quite lucky that I've got to work with a variety of different clients, both within the UK, but I've also got the chance to work abroad, which has been really amazing opportunities. I guess I look forward to work just because working in technology and working at IBM, we're working at the forefront of some of the latest technology. So being actually hands-on with that and being able to see how your work is able to make a difference for others is really inspiring and really exciting, and something really cool to do.
Yeah, that's great. And for you, Chiara, what is the most exciting thing about starting the apprenticeship in September? What are you really looking forward to the most?
I think it's more mixing with very like-minded people that share the passion for what we do. Because all my classes of computing have been quite small, so there's been a very small number of us. But being around like a whole group of people who all like doing what we're doing, which would be great. And I'm looking forward to getting stuck in and getting on with it.
Yeah. And then a similar question for both of you really is any sort of tips or advice you might give to someone, either something that you think like, oh, I wish someone would have told me that a couple of years ago when I was first starting out, or anything that you might say to people who are interested either in doing an apprenticeship or working in technology more generally. Grace, do you want to start us off with that one?
Sure. So I guess for me, one thing is there are lots of different career paths that you can follow through. You can go to university, you can do a gap year, you can go do an apprenticeship, you can do a combination of all three. But make sure you make the right decision for you. Don't necessarily listen to what some people say. I know that I was quite lucky that my parents were very happy and encouraging for me to do an apprenticeship, but certainly there were teachers that I spoke to, or people you spoke to who didn't really see the benefit of doing an apprenticeship, because there's always been a kind of stigma associated with it, and by not necessarily going for the traditional university pathway, you might not get the same degree that you would get if you do university. So therefore they kind of maybe try and put you off it, but do what interests you and what excites you. I guess also the other thing is just be prepared that it can be a lot more work if you do look to doing an apprenticeship. You do have to manage your time quite well, because you have to do day-to-day work alongside also doing a qualification, alongside also trying to having a personal life as well. So be prepared for that, but it's not as hard as everyone maybe puts it out to be.
Thank you. And how about you, Chiara?
I definitely agree with Grace and everything she said. Lots of people are definitely go to uni, but yeah, it just didn't work out. So I think if you're looking at apprenticeships or going down the technology route, look at the different apprenticeships available, because even if you don't have really high grades, there's still loads you can get into, because they start from level 3 to level 6. So I think it's really important that you look out there and find what's out there. I would also say if you're applying to do either it's an internship or an apprenticeship, make sure you apply to absolutely loads, because they're really competitive. So I must have applied to about 15 or 20. So yeah, I'll make sure you've got a spreadsheet as well to keep a track of all of them, because that's helpful.
Yeah, that would be really helpful. And actually that's what you just said there really leads on nicely to one of the questions, which is about what that application and the interview process was like for the apprenticeship. So Chiara, do you want to cover that one off?
Yeah, so the application process varied company to company. Some of them you just sent off your CV and your cover letter, which is a little bit more onto your CV. But some of them had questions you fill out, like what would make you stand out for a crowd and stuff like that, which were quite interesting. Apart from that, once you got through the paperwork stage, they gave you a little online games or little tests. So to test your logic skills or something like that. They were designed like you would play in in the back of a classroom kind of thing, like those type of games. But they were really nice and easy to do in that sense. They weren't over complicated. And then I get through to an assessment centre and you do tasks in there. But throughout the whole process, especially at IBM, everyone was so friendly and really helpful. But yeah, it was a fairly smooth process for IBM. Some of them were very complicated, but it was definitely worth doing, and it was definitely worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned about an assessment centre. Is that something that you do in a group, or is that like an individual interview?
So for the assessment centres, it's normally a group of about 12 people in a room. Then you go off to do tasks in groups. And then we also, at IBM, we had an individual interview as well on the day. So we did like 2 group tasks and an individual interview. But we got loads of downtime in between, which was really nice, because then you could all chat, you could all talk to each other, like you weren't alone kind of thing. And you had time to relax in between, you weren't too stressed out. And then after that, once you got through, we had another separate interview for the department we're going into, which was nice. But again, that was virtually over a computer, that one was, and that was really relaxed as well.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I think that mixture, like you said, of the assessment centre being a couple of group tasks and then an individual interview, I think that's quite common across quite a lot of companies. So that's the type of format that we usually see. That's great, thank you. And Grace, a question for you now. You mentioned about IBM Watson and working on the AI to help companies and how it's kind of supporting companies moving forward. Can you tell us a little bit more about how the artificial intelligence that you've worked on has helped the companies that you've worked with?
Yeah, sure. So I guess artificial intelligence can benefit a company in a number of different ways. One of the most predominant ways is that they can see either drive efficiency or reduce costs, which is a big plus for a company, especially during the current state where there's actually a lot of, I guess, financial difficulties among different companies. I've also been very fortunate that I've worked with a number of different clients now where I've been, I guess, in the forefront of their call centres. So they have, certainly with like banks and energy companies, they have big call centres where customers phone in with their issues. So I've been able to go in there and help run training sessions where we've been able to upskill their colleagues that work within the call centres to be able to learn to use the software we're using, be able to understand sort of the different processes from a customer receiving the conversation to reviewing it to then training the virtual assistant we have, so that they're able to, I guess, step away a bit from the monogamous job they might have at the moment where they'll do the same sort of conversations and be more involved with more exciting things, but also using the virtual assistant we've been able to take away a lot of those sort of boring tasks that they might have had to use and give them more exciting ones, which sort of enriches their job generally.
That sounds really interesting. The idea of virtual assistants kind of freeing up the staff so that actually, because sometimes you hear that thing about artificial intelligence coming to take over people's jobs and stuff, but actually it's interesting what you're saying, that it's kind of freeing up their time so that they can work on some of the more interesting and deeper stuff. So that's really great. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us today. It's been a really nice to have a chat to you and find out a bit about what you do. And we've got one more session next week for those of you who are watching now, where we'll be speaking to Natasha, who is a delivery lead at John Lewis, and she'll be talking a little bit about her previous experience within IT, what she does now, and then also some advice on how to sort of think about what you want to do in the future and reflect on your achievements from the past. So that should be a really good chat as well. So hopefully we'll see you then. But thanks so much to Kira and Grace for joining us today, and we'll speak to you later. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.